Are you living your passion? What is your passion? Welcome to the Lux Life Discovered podcast, where we talk with people who are living a lifestyle that reflects their passion, because we believe everyone should enjoy living their best life, their Lux life.
Hello, I'm Rick Steiner. Welcome to another episode of Lux Life Discovered. Have my co-host with me, Shannon Richmond.
Hi,
Glad
Rick.
to have you.
Good to see you again today.
Great. Same here. And then our guest today is Gary White with High Definition Coaching. And just talking before we started, now the mind is like, where do we begin with this? So tell me a little about what high definition coaching is, and then we'll go from there. How's that?
Well, good question. And thank you for having me on today. So it's good.
Glad you're
good to be here. Good to be here. Isn't Shannon? And she's a case, isn't she?
She is. That's a good way to describe her. Yeah, a case.
Yeah. She's a case. She's a case. So high definition coaching exists for people like Shannon. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No. I need it. I do use it.
Oh, I'm thinking I'm going to need this after.
Right. So I'm high definition coaching is a business coaching company, and so I am a coach with John Maxwell, if you're familiar with John.
Right.
And anyone that's not familiar with John, just Google leadership and his name will come up, John C. Maxwell. He's number one in leadership, and so his material really makes a difference in people's lives. So I like to work inside of companies because that's where the people are at. And whenever business grows, watch what will happen to the community. The community will grow. If you take business and you let it plummet, watch what will happen. The community will go down. So we can make people better, we can make people's lives better, and that's what I'm passionate about. And so that's high definition coaching in a nutshell.
All right, good. So what is your background? How did you get started in this? And because we were talking earlier, this is kind of like your passion, your Lux Life, which ties in with our podcast. And you also help people with the business coaching discover their best.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely, yeah. So I really am living my best life now, and it's just going to get better. It's just going to get better. I'm great today, but I'm going to get better tomorrow.
I like that positivity.
The word refine means to once again make great, right? So we got to go through the fire to get refined, Shannon, right?
Absolutely.
We got to go through the fire to get refined, but we can once again be made great every single day. To answer your question, thank you for letting me do that long intro there. To answer your question, I started as a lifeguard, moved up to being a paramedic for many years, and worked in construction and flooring because you have to if you're going to be a paramedic, and where I was at in Tennessee anyway. And I'd been reading John Maxwell's books and had a mentor, and I knew that I really wanted to move into that at some point. Wasn't sure what that would look like. John started a team, the John Maxwell team, and I paid attention to it for a little while, and then I decided to make the shift. And when I did, it was the best move I've ever made in my life because that's when my growth really and truly began. I was good at helping people. I stunk at growing myself. And when I really came to embrace that and began to put into action the daily things, it's the daily things that make a difference in our growth. Then I began to grow, and then I began to help others grow, and that's a good life.
So what do you think is there like a certain factor that you see with people that are like stagnant? Like, is there something that stands out as a trait that's more common? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. There's lots of reasons why people don't grow. Okay, and the list is pretty long, right? I mean, we can make a long list, but I'll just tell you a few. One of them is it's a gap. I call it the assumption gap. And in the assumption gap, I just assume it will automatically happen. As I get older, I'll just get better and I'll just grow. One of them is the mistake gap. I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake, so I don't grow. One of them is the pain gap. I don't want to hurt. I'm going to have to stretch. It's going to have to. When you work out, look at you. You work out, right? You didn't just get that way. You didn't just roll out of bed one day and all of a sudden you're buffed, right? I mean, you gotta do something.
I don't know what to say.
No, but I mean, you got to do something.
No, yes,
I know. I mean, Shannon doesn't look that good all the time, does she? I mean, she's got to be intentional if she's going to. Yeah, I'm just making.
I know. I'm just giving.
I'm just making the point, but you know where I'm coming
exactly.
From. Yeah, and so sometimes we don't grow because of all these things, and a lot of them are linked to our fear. Truthfully. Right.
Well, most of us don't want to get out of our comfort zone.
Correct.
And that's, unfortunately for me, and my wife would agree to this, and unfortunately for her, comfort zone is I love to live on the outside of it. So I'm one of those rare people. And she would love to put me back into a little shell and put me on a shelf. But, after 40 years, it's not going to happen. So
Rick, let me tell you some of the things that Gary does. So he's a member of the Panama City Beach Chamber, of course. He's also a rock star ambassador, and he offers a lot of value to our members, and he also does lunch and learns at our chamber. So there are several members that I know of, just off the top of my head, that when they get up to speak, they said, before I met Gary, I could not have gotten up there to speak. And now here I am. So he gives them that confidence. When we first talked on the phone before he joined the chamber, we were talking, he said who I was. He told, what was it that you defined who I was? It was, you asked a couple questions and then you figured out what letter I was.
Oh yeah, you're an I personality.
He figured out my personality, and I said, okay, so what does that mean? And then he told me all of these things and then when I started following the things that he told me, things got a lot easier. You didn't fight it.
Right.
So I am a knee-jerk reaction. And I said, well, how do I deal with this type of personality? And he can tell you what that type of personality is and how to deal with them. So you and I, we want, like, if he starts to talk and we just start talking over him, that's us.
Yeah.
And he'll tell you, that's us.
That's why we're doing the podcast,
That's just us. That's our personality. But when you get to know by somebody talking the way they do, their personality, you know how to have a conversation with them. And he has helped so many of our members. So do you want to tell some of the classes that you have and some of the seminars you do? Because they are truly helpful, and it helps so many.
This episode of Lux Life Discovered is brought to you in part by Steiner Event Group. Steiner Event Group is a national event planner that produces results for their clients. They offer event and wedding planning on any scale, hosting bridal shows, scouting talented models, and producing riveting concept photo shoots to help their clients expand their brands, products, and services. Whether you're a business professional aiming to take your brand to the next level, planning a corporate or private event, a bride seeking to have the wedding of your dreams, or a model ready to be discovered, Steiner Event Group is ready for you.
Yeah. So everything, obviously, that I want to do is practical. I want it to add value and you to be able to walk out of that session and you can use it that day. So we have the Maxwell method of DISC. So DISC is DISC, which are the 4 basic personality styles. And it's a communication style. It's a perspective. It's a preference in how you make decisions. And when you can help people understand where they're at and where others are at, then all of a sudden you don't have a misunderstanding.
Right.
Because that's what creates the conflict, right, is the misunderstandings. So that is, and things as well as how to be a real success. Real is relationships, equipping, attitude, and leadership. I got to be good in all 4 of those. Okay. And I got to be growing in that every single day. I can't take a day off. Every day, I need to work on my relationship with you. Every day, I need to equip you for success. Every day, I need to get better in my attitude and better in my ability to lead people. So those are just some of the examples, as well as sales. Because sales, what is sales? You're just helping someone win. You're just helping them get what it is that they really want. And whenever you can connect with them and understand what really matters to them and ask them the right questions, then all of a sudden you can provide a service to them and that aligns with what it is that they really want. So interesting. Yeah.
Do you remember that time we did the idea camp and you did the DISC? Tell them how that happened. And we were all so shocked about so many people that went over to this side or they went over and they're like, no, I'm not that, but they are. So will you tell us a little bit about how you did that and what it brought to our attention?
Yeah, it's really a lot of fun. I call it splitting the room. And so if you've got 20 or so people, it's pretty easy to do. So I just ask them a couple of questions. If you're more outgoing, you're the first one, when it's game day, you're on, if you're outgoing, just raise your hand. Well, all the outgoing people, they throw their hand way up. I said, all right, come on up to the front then. And so all the rest of you, those of you who didn't raise your hand, by default, you would say you're more reserved. You like things on cruise control, don't rev the motor quite so much. And and they all went, right. And they just eased over. I said, well, you just go to that side of the room. And they went over to that side of the room. And I said, now, if you're more task-oriented, like like my wife is very task oriented. So at night she gets in bed and she lies there for a moment, and then she reaches in her pajamas and she gets out her list and she begins to go down the list. I didn't do this. I need to remember to do that tomorrow. And I need, right. It's all fun. I said, if that's you, then move over to this side of the room. And there were those that they moved over to that side of the room. And I said, if you're more relationship oriented, you like to have fun, you like to get to know people, you're genuinely interested in that person sitting next to you, then you're going to be on this side of the room. So literally what that does is that splits the room in 4 sections. Right. And they self-identify, they're the dominant, so what matters to them is results. They skip the 80%, just give me the 20, give me the quick skinny, come on. That's the dominant. These are the running backs in the game. Give me the ball.
Yeah,
right?
Let me go. Yeah,
right? The influencing, they're more outgoing and they're more relational, and that's Shannon, right? And she's more influencing.
She wants the ball sometimes, though.
Yeah. She's got that D in her as well. But these are the cheerleaders. These are the ones that, go team. They're the funnest people in the world. These are the strongest. These are the funnest. And then you got those that are more people oriented, more reserved. These are the sweetest people in the world. The ones that are more task-oriented, their details really matter to them, they're the smartest people in the world. Now, here's the beauty of all that, is when I recognize that I'm in one of those corners, I will see things ideally through one perspective. I'm not the big picture, Rick. I'm a part of the big picture.
Okay, yeah.
But what I bring is valuable, but it's just a part of the picture. So I'll never be the big picture, and that means I need you. And I need you in my life. And whenever we can come together, we can make the big picture. And I can bring what's best of me, and you can bring what's best of you. And together, we can deliver what's best to our community. And it's just,
it's pretty cool. I like that. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
So when you do those type exercises, do you find people going to a group and then later they're like, I didn't think I'd do that, or be in that group?
Yeah, absolutely. And then what's also fun is you'll ask them, if you could move to another group, where would you move? And they always point either right or left. And so the point is that, like, Shannon is an ID personality. She's a blend of that influencing and that dominant.
Right.
My wife is a CS. She's a compliant and steady. She's a blend of that. So they'll generally point one way or the other. I kind of lean this way. I kind of lean this way. They hardly ever point diagonally. And that's because the person diagonally across the room, we have the least in common with. And
that's really interesting. Yeah.
And sometimes that's who we marry.
Because it's always the opposite.
It's amazing. Yeah. That's who we marry. And when you say that, they're like, that's it. Oh.
Maybe after 40 years, I understand it. No, I'm just kidding. No,
but isn't it nice to know, like, what my personality would be if you didn't know me at first for our conversation to go much better?
Yeah.
Like I cut you off all the time because it's like, I already know that answer. Next.
Yeah,
next.
Our texts are very funny because I'll get like halfway through typing and she's already replied with half of what I was going to type. And it's like, well, I wasted those efforts, So, but it is amazing because our personalities are so similar. So,
So I know when I talk with Shannon, it needs to be results oriented and fun, and it needs to be fun first. She prefers that first. Just look at her. She prefers fun first and results. Just get to it.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the classes that you've been offering at the chamber for our members?
Yeah. So, good question. So it's the Maxwell method of sales. So, and that's sales for real is what that's called. And that helps people understand their selling style. So everything I just told you, first of all, there's cutting edge sales strategies in this. It's from John Maxwell. He's number one. And then it incorporates some of this that we've talked about, because someone's personality, it is their perspective, it is their preference and how they make decisions. It's their preference in how they buy. And,
go ahead. No.
And it's a preference in how they sell. So if I'm not thinking about what matters to you, I'll just sell to you in the way that's normal to me.
Right, without really taking into account what you want.
Right,
yeah.
Right. So that's my natural selling style. When you help people understand that, I have a natural selling style. I also have a natural buying style because I prefer to do business a certain way. When you understand that, And then all of a sudden, when I'm the seller, you're the buyer, and I'm presenting my product or service to you, I'll get a read on you pretty quick. And I'll know automatically, without knowing you, Rick, I'll know what matters to you. It's either results or an enjoyable experience or details or affirmation. It's one of those things.
Interesting.
With By the Sea Resorts, you have so many options, you never have to settle. By the Sea Resorts offers 5 restaurants and 11 hotels where you can enjoy the sights and the sounds of the Gulf, spread out in spacious guest rooms. Or book your next event or meeting in one of our many customizable spaces. For dining, we're serving up sunshine and good times at all 3 of our Barefoot restaurant locations. Or experience waterfront dining at the Shrimp Boat Restaurant. And enjoy live entertainment every weekend at House of Bourbon. By the Sea Resorts. We're saving you a front row seat.
I know it's going to make me think about a lot of things now. So yeah. So what do you think the biggest challenge is in work? Because you described yourself as like a business pastor.
Yeah.
So and after you said that, it kind of makes sense because you do work, because you have to hear a lot of, not stories, but a lot of, and it's not confessionals, but you get to know the people you're working with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because my personal rhythm is going to affect my rhythm in the team.
Right.
So if there's hurdles that I'm having difficulty getting over, and some of it could be this, what we're talking about, communication. Some of it is our fears. Some of it is our thinking, our mindset. For instance, I've got some customers that I work with, and I've heard them recently in some of our sessions say, well, we can't do that. We can't do this, and because of this circumstance, and we can't do that. So the idea was we'll just settle. Right. And so I just share with them. I'll say, so if I ask, can I, then that presents either a yes or no. But I said, if you'll just take that and shift it to how can I? How can I? Whenever you ask that question, you'll start searching for the answer. And the truth is there's always a way if you just reach for it.
That's true. My, when I look back over the years that I've had the most success is when I've lived outside my comfort zone and really took not let the fear control me.
Right.
Just take the risk.
Yeah.
And, nobody knows me as well as I do. Nobody knows what I'm capable of accomplishing better than I do. And so you just have to live like that. Yeah. And a lot of people are like, well, I want that security. I want to be safe in my little comfort zone. Yeah. And, it's nice to a point, but at the same time, if you don't take the chances and you don't try to see what's possible, you'll never know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so really that's the reason that my company is called High Definition Coaching. And so I can be a little geeky at times, so just stay with me for a second. Right? But the word definition comes from the Latin definitus, which means limits. And our definition in Webster, it means distinctness of outline. Definition means distinctness of outline. So it's really our frame of reference. So the law of relativity says I can't define unless I can only define according to what I'm aware of.
Right.
So I don't know hard until I know soft. So I'm only aware of what is in my frame of reference. Here's the point. Everything that you're reaching for is beyond your limits. It's outside that comfort zone. Those limits, that definition, that you say this is what's possible, everything you want is outside of that. It's outside of standard definition. It's in high definition. That's where everything that you want, that's where it's at.
Well, the podcast would be the high definition for me, for example, because I wanted to do this for a long time, but I've never done a podcast, I'm one of those people in this case would like to have thought about this and have someone else do it that could really be better at it than me. Yeah. But I'm so glad I went with that gut instinct because it's been fun to meet so many different people that are living their passions. And like with you, for example, this is just very encouraging to me. So I know I'll be doing a lot of research for sure and following up with you. Yeah. So, and then tell me, you mentioned the 3 R's when we were talking earlier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, we're talking about helping people live their purpose, right? And one of the things I like to use is the 3 R's, and when you can align those, you're really living life from your sweet spot. And so the 3 R's are this: what's required of me, what gives me the greatest reward, and what gives me my greatest return. And when you can align those 3, and what's required of you is also what gives you the greatest reward, the satisfaction,
right,
and gives you the greatest return, you're living life in your sweet spot. And you can align those. You can. Purpose, let me say this about purpose. Purpose is always served. I cannot live out my purpose. I cannot fulfill my purpose unless I'm serving you. Purpose is always served. And we serve best through our giftedness. What are you really good at? Because there's something you're really good at. You may not be good at this. So Dave Ramsey, for instance, he had someone working for him, and he said he stunk at sales. He stunk. And he said, so I served him, and I let him go be what he's gifted at, and he's now like one of the highest photographers in Nashville. He does all the CD covers for all the country stars. He's in his giftedness, right? And so even in that, you may have somebody working for you. They're not in their giftedness. You can serve them and help them get in their giftedness. But that's where we serve our purpose the best, is through the areas of our giftedness. And one quick thing about that. Your giftedness may not be fully developed. I think we can say that Tiger Woods, he's got a gift.
Oh, yeah.
Right? He's got a gift. There was a time when it was not fully developed. And after his back surgery, he had to redevelop that. Now he's had all these leg surgeries. He's going to have to redevelop that gift, right? Because now his circumstances are different. Get that? His circumstances are different. But he's not saying, can I? He's saying, how can I?
Right. That's true. Yeah. So on your 3 R's, back there for just a second.
Yeah.
Do you find people achieving the first two, but not getting the third one? Do a lot of people run into that?
Yeah, and I think that really depends. Yes, so the answer is yes. And I think the reasons for that, it kind of depends on the circumstances. It also depends on sometimes it depends on, let me give you an example. If I really want to please you, and I could be living in this idea in my mind that I'm not pleasing to you, and I'm not pleasing to you. So I'm constantly working to please you and please you and please you and please you. And I don't give time for myself for something that pleases me. That can happen. I mean, it just can happen. So I developed something for my life, and I'll offer it to you all and offer it to the listeners and viewers. I call it my 5 Fs, okay? It's not like I give myself a bad grade, right? I've seen that before. No, I'm just kidding.
No, John, grade school, no.
But I need these 5 things in my life every single day to be the best version of myself, and that is faith, that is family, fitness, forward movement, and fun. I've got to have all 5 of those every day.
In that order? I like faith first.
Mm-hmm.
But did you like it in that order?
I did get my fitness in today.
Okay.
I've been to fitness.
That's where you're wanting to put last.
I wanted to put fun.
I know you
wanted to put fun first.
No, second. Faith's always first.
I knew that you wanted fitness last. So
that's last.
Well, it might be in order for me, but nonetheless, it doesn't matter what order it comes in. But I've got to have those every day.
That's awesome.
This episode of Lux Life Discovered is brought to you in part by Orville's Men's Store. Thank you, Orville's Men's Store, for supplying the men's clothing for today's podcast. For the absolute best in casual and dress wear for men, visit orvillesms.com. That's ORVILLESMS.com.
So do you find when you're talking to people, you brought up a good point. If we're not building ourselves up in the process, and it's not that we're not enjoying it, but we're using all of our energy and not really replenishing ourselves, and
It's huge.
That's when I think a lot of people lose their passion and lose their drive.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, and we've said experience. I say we because I assume we've all said this. Experience is the best teacher.
Yeah.
And that's not true. Evaluated experience is the best teacher.
There you go. That's a good point.
So you have to take time. You have to take time for yourself. Evaluate the experience. When I leave here today, I will evaluate this experience. I just will.
No pressure.
Evaluated experience is the best teacher, and we've got to have that time. And really, our ability. So leadership is a part of this as well. Because everything rises and falls there with how we influence people. I was sharing with a group this morning. I said, I don't get to pick who I influence, but I do get to pick how I influence. I will influence no matter what. I will be influencing people, whether I meet them for the first time or I've known them for years. I will be influencing someone today and tomorrow, and I will be influencing someone. I don't get to pick who necessarily, but I do get to pick how. And my ability to do that well hinges on two things: how much I value myself and how much I value others. And here's why. It depends on how much I value myself, because I cannot function at a level higher than my own self-image.
True. Yeah. Okay.
Holy moly. Drop the mic right there.
We have a lot of work to do.
You could just about stop.
Yeah.
And it hinges on how I value others, because I cannot influence you more than I value you. So value, man, I cannot emphasize that word enough. Value yourself and value others. And if we will live day to day that way, I promise you, it'll lead you in the right direction.
Well, that kind of goes with what I was talking about earlier about the comfort zone.
Yeah.
If you don't value yourself and what you bring into the table, you'll never be out of that comfort zone.
That's right.
You know? And so, yeah, that's interesting.
right.
I like that.
So when you're helping people, you actually go to businesses now.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not just one-on-one. It can be a whole company. How do you do those?
Good point.
Yeah, so it's really, I like to go inside the company for a lot of reasons. First of all, I told you I can get geeky sometimes. It's research-driven, that there's a couple of things that need to be in play for it to really be transferable. So what you're going to bring into someone's life and how you're going to influence them, it needs to be transferable. So inside of companies, it needs to be in the company. Inside the company, because that alone tells them this company is for me. This company values me. And in this space, they have designated where I can grow. It needs to be in the space. It needs to be a drip. It needs to be over time for it to be transferable. And it needs to be done in a way where they can speak into it. They don't want Charlie Brown's teacher standing in front of them. That's what if all you do is get to listen to me, and I know on this podcast I'm kind of talking a little extra here.
You're supposed to.
But I'm supposed to.
You're good,
right?
yeah.
I'm supposed to. But if we're working together training, I'm not doing all the talking. That we're not mining any gold that way. The gold's in you. That I will facilitate that discussion. So whenever you can bring it out of them, whenever they've got that interaction, and it's done over time, and it's done in their place of business, it is 85% transferable, what you're going to give them.
Right. And plus, when somebody comes, it's not like it's their own idea, but when they acknowledge that and they take responsibility for it, that's huge as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do provide also where people, I've got some classes I'm doing at the Chamber. I've got one I'll be starting after the first of the year over in Destin. That people can, hey, maybe they can't do that, but I can send some onesies and twosies, right? And so, yeah, let's just be flexible and make it available for them. I do some one-on-ones as well. So,
all right. So tell our listeners then how they can contact you, or you have a website.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So it's highdefinitioncoaching.com. I know it's big. It's long. I'm sorry. It's highdefinitioncoaching.com. Email is Gary at highdefinitioncoaching.com. Phone number, I'll throw it out there, 423-593-8003. You can get a hold of me there.
Okay, excellent.
So don't you do a whole bunch of free classes as well? Haven't you been putting those on? So people that maybe don't have a budget or their work can't afford to send them right now, what have you been offering all of those people?
Yeah, thanks for asking that, Shannon. On the fourth Tuesday of every month, I'm right here at the Panama City Beach Chamber. I believe this chamber is second to none. And I would tell, even if you weren't sitting here, Shannon, I would tell, and I do tell that. They're absolutely amazing. If you're not a member of the chamber, become a member of the chamber, because it is an environment of growth. All right, but to answer your question, fourth Tuesday of every month, from 11 to 1, I'm at the Beach Chamber doing a lunch and learn.
It's free.
Yep, it's free.
Wow, okay.
I provide lunch, so if I'm going to ask you to come during lunch, I'm going to feed you. So
that's even better.
And it's good food. It's good food. We got some good chamber member restaurants.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. I know I've learned a lot, and it's just kind of piqued my interest. So there's going to be a lot more research that goes into you and your company and knowing more about this, because I think it's very interesting.
Well, thank you for what you're doing too, because you're bringing a great value to the listeners and those that are viewing, and just, you've stepped into your purpose. You've stepped into your life. So no wonder you call it what you do, Lux Life. You're really living it out, and you're adding value to others, and that's what makes our world better, is when we add value to others.
That's true, yeah. Well, good. Yeah. Well, this has been like I said, very much enjoyed visiting with you. So,
thanks for having me.
Well, good deal. Well, that's another episode of Lux Life Discovered. Thank you for joining us today, and we will be back soon. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and want to support our show, leave us a review. That's the #1 way to help this show reach others just like you. Join us next time for another Lux Life Discovered.
How'd you like
See,
it?
I loved it.
Wait, he's going to evaluate it. Go ahead and evaluate it.
Right.
I love it.
No, wait. Not just evaluate. What's the
Evaluated experience.
evaluate experience? Yeah, not just an experience.
Oh, that's right,
Evaluate.
that's right.
I'm trying to get that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have that in my head.
Evaluated
today.
experience,
Yeah. So,
That would be really
so do
good.
you think Shannon and I have similar personalities?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
I think
and I
you-
forgot about the hen pecked part. So I forgot to.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
What did you forget?
When he talked about being henpecked, he said, "You should see my hen." I forgot. Yeah, I mean, not that I looked over you and thought about that. I know that's what it sounds like.
So I heard,
You're like, thanks, I think.
I heard a joke that Earth's population of men died and went to heaven, and St. Peter said, all you men who are henpecked, you line up in this line, and the line went as far as the eye could see. And he said, all you